My name is Charlotte Groves, a 17-year-old from Springfield, Missouri. I'm just an ordinary teenager who goes to high school, hangs out with friends, and attends church regularly with my family. I've been a Christian since I was 12, and my faith has always been an important part of my life. But nothing could have prepared me for the dream I had a few nights ago. It was so vivid, so real, that I knew it was more than just a dream. It was a vision from God. In my dream, my friends and I were preparing for a vacation to Paris, which we had actually planned in real life. We had fully prepared for the trip, with our flight tickets ready to go. However, in the dream, instead of flying, we were traveling by car with a friend. The journey was terrifying, and the road was unlike anything I had ever seen. Suddenly, I found myself under a dark blue moon, in a desolate place I had never seen before in my life. I could hear agonizing screams in the distance, but I couldn't see any houses or even trees. The place was just an empty plain, no trees, no houses, nothing but open land. I started walking toward the source of the screaming, but no matter how far I walked, I wasn't getting any closer. The screams sounded so loud and near, yet I had no idea where they were coming from. I grew tired of walking, so I decided to sit on the plain ground. As soon as I sat down, I began hearing voices, different kinds of voices, but I still couldn't see anyone around. The only thing I could see was the dark blue moon. I started to feel worried and scared because of the voices I was hearing, even though there was no one around. Initially, when I first arrived in that place, I hadn't felt afraid at all. Suddenly, I heard my name among the voices. Someone called out, "Charlotte, Charlotte, Charlotte," 3 times. I was so terrified that I shouted back, "Who's there? Show yourself! Who is calling me? Please, show your face!" The voices then told me to turn around from where I was standing and facing. When I did, a gate suddenly appeared behind me, seemingly out of nowhere. The gate was a mix of gold, brown, and some other colors I couldn't even name. I entered through the gate and found myself in a very horrible place. It was unbearably hot and filled with a terrible stench. There was no sense of peace at all, only the sound of dreadful screams echoing through the air. I started seeing faces, but none of them were familiar to me. When I tried to speak to them, they ignored me. Everyone I saw in this place looked very sad and troubled. A very beautiful woman approached me, took my hand, and said, "My dear, come with me." I began asking her questions about this place, and she told me, "This is Hades. All the people you see here are sinful souls who did bad things when they were alive. They are waiting for that day," she said. I asked, "Which day?" She replied, "Judgment Day." I realized I was in Hades, the place where souls are kept before the final judgment. The sight that greeted me was terrifying. She began pointing out some souls who were famous when they were alive. The souls I saw were not just anyone. They were pastors who had once been known to the world, but had fallen from grace because of their wicked deeds. They were there, waiting to be sent to the eternal fires of hell on Judgment Day. As I walked through this dreadful place, I saw 5 souls that stood out to me. I didn't recognize any of them, and so I asked her, "Who are these souls?" She said, "These were men who had once claimed to serve God, but had led many astray with their lies, deceit, and wickedness. Their faces were twisted with pain and regret, and their bodies were distorted in unnatural ways. The horrors they had inflicted on others were now reflected in their tortured forms. I saw their names and the wrongs they committed boldly written on the garments they were wearing, revealing why they had ended up in this place of horror. I saw one soul named Jim Jones, and beneath his name, these words were written on his garment: "The leader of the infamous Jones Town massacre, where over 900 people died in a mass murder-suicide. I saw him surrounded by the souls of the people he had led to their deaths. Their hollow eyes stared at him with an eternal accusation. His soul was bound in chains, each link representing the life he had destroyed. He tried to speak, but no words came out, only a choking, rasping sound as he clawed at his throat. Then I saw a second famous pastor in Hades named Fred Phelps. According to the writings on his garment, it said, "The founder of the Westboro Baptist Church, he was known for spreading hatred and condemnation in the name of God. His soul was engulfed in flames, but they did not consume him. Instead, they tormented him, reflecting the fiery hate he had spewed on earth. Surrounding him were the souls of those he had driven away from Christ with his poisonous words. Their cries of anguish were a constant reminder of the love he had rejected." I also saw the third famous pastor in Hades. His name was Tony Alamo. He was a preacher who ran a cult-like ministry and was convicted of child abuse and exploitation. He was trapped in a cage of thorns, each thorn representing the innocence he had stolen from children. His skin was torn and bleeding, but no relief came. The souls of the children he had abused stood around him, their faces filled with sorrow and hurt. He reached out to them, but they recoiled in fear, reminding him of the trust he had betrayed. I saw this pastor with the name Earl Polk. According to his garment, he was a pastor who was involved in multiple sexual scandals, including accusations of sexual misconduct and abuse. He was bound to a throne of snakes, the serpents representing the lies and deceit he had woven throughout his life. The snakes bit him constantly, injecting venom that burned through his soul. Surrounding him were the souls of those he had manipulated and betrayed, their faces reflecting the pain and confusion he had caused. Then I saw another pastor in a dark hole. He was richly dressed in a beautiful garment, but he looked incredibly worried and sad. His name was Bob Larson. According to what was written in his garment, he was known as a televangelist who profited off of exorcisms and exploited people's fears for financial gain. His soul was trapped in a pit of darkness, his eyes wide with terror as unseen forces pulled at him from all sides. The screams of those he had deceived echoed in his ears, and every word of his false teachings was a dagger in his heart. He was surrounded by the shadows of those he had misled, their faces twisted in despair. As I stood there, I was overwhelmed by the horror of what I was seeing. These men had once been leaders, shepherds of their flocks, but they had led their people astray. Now they were paying the price for their wickedness. The judgment that awaited them was eternal, and there was no escape. In my dream, I felt a presence again beside me. I turned and saw an angel, his face radiant with the light of God's glory. He spoke to me, saying, "These are the souls of those who have perverted the truth and led many into darkness. Their fate is sealed, for they have rejected the grace of God and embraced wickedness. They will be cast into the lake of fire on the day of judgment, and their suffering will be eternal." I woke up with a start, completely baffled by the meaning of this dream. I narrated the exact dream to my mum, and she was surprised by its intensity. She advised me to share it with my pastor. I felt deeply disturbed by the dream for the entire day. The dream was so real that I could still feel the heat of the flames and hear the screams of the souls in torment. I knew that what I had seen was a warning, not just for me, but for everyone. I've shared this vision with my parents and my pastor, and now I'm sharing it with you. I believe God gave me this vision to remind us of the importance of living a life of integrity and faithfulness. These men were once leaders in the church, but they allowed sin and pride to corrupt them. Their lives serve as a warning to all of us. No one is above the judgment of God. As for me, this vision has changed my life. I've always been serious about my faith, but now I'm more determined than ever to live a life that honors God. I want to be a light in the darkness, to share the love and truth of Jesus with everyone I meet. I'm still a regular teenager. I go to school, I hang out with my friends, and I enjoy life. But now, I'm also deeply aware of the spiritual battle that's being waged around us, and I'm committed to standing firm in my faith. I don't know why God chose to show me this vision, but I know that I can't keep it to myself. We all need to be reminded that our actions have consequences, and that the choices we make today will echo in eternity. If you're watching this, I urge you to examine your life. Are you living in a way that honors God? Or have you allowed sin to creep in and take control? There's still time to turn back, to repent, and to seek God's forgiveness. But the time is short, and the stakes are eternal. May God have mercy on us all. Thank you for watching. This vision has deeply impacted me, and I hope it serves as a powerful reminder for all of us to live with integrity and faith. Please, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in our next video. Stay blessed.